Okay, Second Kings chapter 2. And it came about when the Lord was about to take up Elijah by a whirlwind to heaven, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel, which, if you remember, was a city full of debauchery and idolatry. Okay, verse 3. Then the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that the Lord will take away your master from over you today?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Be still." Elijah said to him, "Elisha, please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they came to Jericho. And obviously, there was some type of communication at this time with this supernatural event that was supposed to happen to Elijah. The sons of the prophets who were at Jericho approached Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that the Lord will take away your master from over you today?" And he answered, "Yes, I know. Be still." Then Elijah said to him, "Please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to the Jordan." And he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. Now 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood opposite them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the Jordan. Elijah took his mantle, which was a coat, and folded it together and struck the waters, and they were divided here and there, so that the two of them crossed over on dry ground. When they had crossed over, Elijah said to Elisha, "Ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you." And Elisha said, "Please, let a double portion of your spirit be upon me." Okay, apparently Elisha was asking to not only take Elijah's place, but also receive spiritual power beyond his own capabilities to meet the responsibilities of his position as Elijah's successor. He desired that Elijah's mighty power might continue to live through him. Verse 10, he said, "You have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me when I am taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so." As they were going along and talking, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, which separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind to heaven. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." And he saw Elijah no more. Then he took hold of his own clothes and tore them in two pieces. He also took up the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and returned and stood by the bank of the Jordan. He took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and struck the waters, and said, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" And when he also had struck the waters, they were divided here and there, and Elisha crossed over. All right, so in the history of the Bible, Elijah and Enoch are the only two people God took to heaven without them dying. Genesis chapter 5, verse 24 tells us, "Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away." He is described as a man who walked with God for 300 years. Elijah was perhaps the most powerful of God's prophets in the whole Old Testament. The Bible does not specifically give us the answer as to why God took them. Some speculate that they were taken in preparation for a role in the end times, possibly as the two witnesses in Revelation chapter 11. This is possible, but not clear-cut. It may be that God desired to save Enoch and Elijah from experiencing death due to their great faithfulness in serving and obeying him. Whatever the case, God has his purpose. And while we don't always understand God's plans and purposes, we know that his way is perfect. Elijah is just one of those mystery characters in the Bible that has a lot of connection with John the Baptist and the coming of Christ as the Messiah. So a lot to dig into if you want to spend more time. Verse 15. Now when the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho opposite him saw him, they said, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." And they came to meet him and bowed themselves to the ground before him. They said to him, "Behold now, there are with your servants 50 strong men. Please let them go and search for your master. Perhaps the Spirit of the Lord has taken him up and cast him on some mountain or into some valley." And he said, "You shall not send." But when they urged him until he was ashamed, he said, "Send." They sent therefore 50 men, and they searched 3 days, but did not find him. They returned to him while he was staying at Jericho, and he said to them, "Did I not say to you, do not go?" Then the men of the city said to Elisha, "Behold now, the situation of this city is pleasant, as my Lord sees, but the water is bad and the land is unfruitful." He said, "Bring me a new jar and put salt in it." So they brought it to him. He went out to the spring of water and threw salt in it and said, "Thus says the Lord, I have purified these waters. There shall not be from there death or unfruitfulness any longer." So the waters have been purified to this day, according to the word of Elisha, which he spoke. And if you were with me a few days ago, I showed a diagram of the cycle of sin in Israel that they go through continually. And here's a time in the cycle where God delivers and restores his people. Then he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, young lads came out from the city and mocked him and said to him, "Go up, you bald head, go up, you bald head." I get it, Elisha. Verse 24, when he looked behind him and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 female bears came out of the woods and tore up 42 lads of their number. He went from there to Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Samaria. So if you lead middle school or high school ministry and kids start mocking you, I love pointing out this verse. It's a great one. All right, guys, I know that was kind of a difficult chapter, some mystery to it. And I advise that if you have any further questions, talk to your pastor about it. He might have a good book. I know people have really dug into this topic of Elisha compared to Christ and all that. So it's pretty deep. And if you guys want to go that route, go for it. I highly advise it. Okay, well, God bless you and take care.